patchwork cables. They have the finest cables available and they're handmade. Don't forget to use the discount code asterisk for a 10% discount.
Hi, this is Asterisk and welcome to Thursday Night Modular. So tonight I'm going to be kind of showing you some sound design kind of things that I've been doing with my modular gear and the sounds that I'm getting from my modular gear. And the gear that I used this time, again, is the No Coast. Again, I'm learning a lot from using the No Coast and how to manipulate sounds and get really good sounds from it. Also learning about the patching, how to get synthesis, use it for synthesis, and it's allowing me to be able to use those skills and to move into the other gear that I have that's more modular based. So a lot of my beginning videos for this particular series will be focused on me using the No Coast, and that is why I think it's a really good piece of starter gear to start out learning about modular. It's considered to be a semi-modular piece of equipment, and that's what it is. So let's just kind of get started. Let's talk about the sound. So the sound that I've created with this, I am still using the Remedy plugin, which I've found to be very, very useful because it allows you to be able to kind of pull in those MIDI files from anywhere and be able to just kind of push it to whatever. And I pulled one of the files from the Cymatics Python MIDI kit, and it's in C sharp minor. And from that, hold on, let me just kind of show you what that one's doing. Okay, so that's the sound that I pulled from the No Coast, and I'm gonna put some B-roll showing you what patches I'm using in the unit to be able to get that tone. I always forget to do that. You really need to show the patch levels that are happening from the unit itself if you want to replicate it. And of course, because it's the nature of the gear, the electricity running through it and coursing through it will make the sound different on another unit. So you may not be able to exactly recreate the sound the way that it sounds here, but you can get really close by using the settings that I'm using. So what I am doing with this one, I have been experimenting with Output's new plugin, Thermal, and I am extremely impressed with this plugin. I'm a huge Output fan. I pretty much use all of their stuff. Use it on a regular basis on a lot of my material. And when they released this, at first I thought it was just a regular old Joe Smo distortion plugin. And no, it's not a regular Joe Schmo distortion plugin. It shouldn't even be advertised as a distortion plugin because it's really kind of not. There's a lot going on with this plugin from the standpoint of being able to use it for all kinds of waveform modulation, the filtering that's capabilities. You can change the stereo width, the tone of the whatever you're trying to do, and the filtering is not just filtering. We're talking about being able to actually add effects from 2 or 3 different levels. So the top level you can add again, filtering, bit reducer, chorus, compression, stereo delay, filters. Well, I just said that. Flanger, frequency shifting, a phaser, and a reverb. And you can do that on two more different stepped up levels down here. There's the X and Y. The X and Y, you can change the type of effect that it's using there as well. So if I go to effects here, so see how I can change the effects from being a bit reducer to being something else. So this is a very, very intense plugin. I'm really kind of shocked about this. But I guess I shouldn't be all that shocked because Output has been creating some amazing plugins and also amazing contact plugins for quite some time. So I guess, what else should you expect other than whenever you hear that Output has put out something new from a software perspective that it's going to be awesome. So I don't work for Output, and I'm not sponsored by them in any way. I am super appreciative of this plugin though, because it has a lot of very capable and nice sound design features that make you allow you to be able to create sounds and change sounds and alter sounds the way that you want. From a frequency perspective, using the stage filters, which there's 3 of them. I mean, that's crazy. You can do it in 3 different methods and 3 different areas of the frequency spectrum. I know I can't do that with the Fab Filter Saturn 2. I'm only limited to be able to change one stage of the frequency spectrum. So from an apples to apples comparison, from what I see versus the Saturn 2, Thermal is definitely ahead of the pack because of the amount of things that they've added to this thing to be able to allow you to manipulate things. So I'm using that, and the other thing that I'm using is Izotope has released a new version of Stutter Edit. I actually have Stutter Edit 1, and I didn't use it that much because I'm using other things that kind of allow me to do the same types of effects. But I did notice that they've changed a lot with this new plugin, where they've added more traditional type of effects to it, which is actually kind of nice. So it makes not only manipulating the sound from I call it kind of DJ effects perspective, because this plugin allows you to be more kind of a DJ from a mixing perspective. Because if I put this on my master and I really want to affect my overall global sound of the way that my song sounds, this thing is definitely the thing to go to for that. It's all triggered by MIDI, meaning that you have to create a MIDI track to be able to trigger it, and then you put this on the audio track itself, or at least that's the way that it works in Ableton. Sometimes things work a little different in Ableton, and this is just one of those plugins that works that way. I really wish there was a way that they would have made this to where it would automatically detect the MIDI, but even if it is in an audio track. But that would require some changes within Ableton for that to happen. More like the ARA stuff that you're seeing with Melodyne in other programs. It would have to be on that level of change that they would have to make for that to be able to be possible. So I guess I can't hate it too much. It's just kind of a pain in the butt when you're wanting to start working with it. You have to remember how to set it up every time, which means you have to add that MIDI track and then point everything to your audio to the track where you placed it, and then on the track itself, you just put the audio from, and then that's pretty much it. The MIDI is triggered by this track that you create for it. So I've done some really interesting stuff with that, with this one. So to be able to get to copy the audio from doing the effects, I had to create a separate audio track for that. So this is what it's doing with that. So that's very different from the original. And again, let's just play the original. Okay, so again, it's very, very cool because it not only adds your traditional effects like flanging and chorus, and I saw that it had even some lo-fi kind of degrading sound in there. It's a lot more flexible than the original one used to be. Not saying that the original one is not flexible, because the original one is very cool too. It was just the layout of it is a little different for this one as well. They made it a little bit easier to like read and navigate in this one to me versus the first one. The first one is it's in the block style where it shows all of the effects, and it's just very kind of cluttery. This one is a lot more cleaned up where you can select the effects a lot easier and faster. And then of course, you can build and stack the different effects into your own kind of customized patch presets. I like using a lot of the built-in presets. There's a lot of thought that went into them. I haven't played with all of them. I'm kind of stuck on this very first one, the BT Gator Human League one. And it gave me like a really good choppy kind of gritty, glitchy sound, which I really liked, which is why I added it. So those are kind of the kinds of things I've been experimenting with with my modular equipment. Also just really getting more comfortable with patching, experimenting more with patching. One way that I've found that is a cool way to learn is going out to the Make Noise website, and if you download the manual, they have some of the standard patches in there in the manual that allow you to be able to kind of create some of your basic stuff. Also, there's lots of places online where you can see people making patches where they've created web pages or postings where they're showing how to use the device and how to make patches and how to make other types of patches and standard sounds. So those are kind of cool as well. I'm going to start digging more into the Mother 32 and the Hydra synth. The ASM Hydra synth is a very interesting synth. Again, it comes with a lot of just flexibility from a sound design perspective, and I've not even touched the very first grasp part of it. I'm still in kindergarten working with the No Coast, so I've only done very small steps with the Hydra synth, and I'm looking forward to like digging into it a lot more. The reason why I picked up the Hydra synth is because I saw that it had lots of really good CV Gate integration, which I want to be able to utilize it to tie it in with both my Mother 32 and the No Coast eventually to have more of a stacked and layered sound. That and its ability to have so much from a synthesis standpoint of parameters to be able to change. It was between this device, and I was also looking at that new molar. I can't remember there's another, hold on, let me just find it. So, of course, I'm a big Sweetwater fan, and I've pretty much have purchased quite a bit of stuff from Sweetwater, and they're one of my favorites for buying new things. But this one, it was between that and what is it? There's another Modular Electronics. It was between that one and the Argon 8. I'm still thinking about the Argon 8, although from a sound perspective, the sounds, from what I can tell, they're very digital, very dry, very, bland. Same kind of stuff that I could get from my my regular plugins, so maybe not. I was looking for something that would sound just a little bit more analogish, or at least get me closer to the analogish sound without actually going there. The other device that I looked at hard was this the Sculpt, which I'm really still thinking about. The Sculpt is it's like a mini 4-voice polyphonic synthesizer, and you just have to hear this thing to hear what it sounds like. It's got this amazing, really, really digital kind of analogish kind of blend sound for such a little bitty device. But all of the demos that I've heard from it, it's very rich, very thick kind of sounds that you can get from it. So I'm still looking at this one. I may end up getting that one. The price is not bad as well. Sweetwater actually has been having some really good deals too. Sometimes you can get into stuff like this for way cheaper than what it's listed as. Like right now they've got demo units available. So when they have demo units available, I always try to jump on those. They always do really good quality control checks on the things that are being sent out that have been sent back in and reboxed or repackaged. So you can always guarantee that there's not going to be anything missing in the box, like a cable, like a power cable or the manual or something like that. So I feel pretty safe when I go and purchase demo units from Sweetwater. The other thing that just came out that is just ridiculously too pricey, and I've been eyeballing Waldorf for a really long time. Waldorf has 2 synths that they've released recently. Let's just go look at Waldorf real quick. I'm really disappointed with their pricing. Waldorf makes really good synths, but the pricing is ridiculous. The first one that I looked at seriously was the Kyra. The Kyra is very similar to the Access Virus in respect that it has the types of synthesis that it can do. But the difference is this one is 128 voice polyphony, whereas the Access Virus is not. Also, this thing, the similarities to me would be you could get the same types of sound from it as the Virus, and also it uses USB audio, so that you can pull the plug-in into your DAW and have separated tracks within the same plug-in, which is kind of cool. So it allows you to be able to use more. You can use one instance of the synth in multiple tracks, which is very nice. So I was looking at that originally, but the price is just not attractive, and even a demo unit is just not attractive. The other thing that they just released is the Iridium. The Iridium is a monster polyphonic desktop synthesizer as well. It's a 16-voice synth. It's dual timbral polyphony. It's got 3 stereo digital oscillators, and it's just too pricey. So I don't understand what Waldorf's thought processes are as far as being able to make money. Because even folks who can afford this kind of stuff, they have budgets. We all do. This is just ridiculous. That's overpricey for a desktop synthesizer. And I realize that they put a lot of ROI into these devices, but you gotta think that you've been making synthesizers for what, 20 years now. You should understand and know how to make them from a cost perspective that's going to be less expensive so that you can sell more units, versus overbuilding them with components that are super pricey, to where nobody can afford it. I don't understand how they're making money. It makes me think about the other company that does that is UAD, unfortunately. They're quality products, but the pricing is just, it's not for your average user. A simple UAD twin is like, it runs you about $600 to $700. That's kind of pricey to me for a small audio interface. And then when you get into the larger interfaces, they're gonna run you around $2,000, unless you can get them at a used price or a discounted price. So it's just, I don't understand what's going on with the music developers out there in the world. But even before we started having all these things happening from a global financial perspective, these kind of prices just don't fly. If you really want to make money off of musical equipment, you're gonna have to reduce the price on this stuff and make it affordable. There's tons of people that would be interested in buying these things, but if they're overpriced like this, who's gonna buy that? I'm not gonna buy these. They're nice synths. They're very nice, but hell no. I'm not gonna spend that kind of money on a synth that I'm probably gonna use maybe once or twice out of the month, or when I feel like it. It's just not that serious to me. I got into let's go take a look at both of these. Now, the one that I did want, and I'm kind of disappointed with my purchase now, with the Access Virus. I have been in love with the Access Virus since it was released originally. And I always told myself that I was going to get one of those things because I love the way it sounds. It's very gritty, grimy, analog-y sound. But yeah, it's pricey too. And what's really funny is when you go out to the website for this product, you'll find that the control center, that software that runs the thing, is now no longer supported, and the company has not listed whether they're going to continue to update it or not. So if you are looking to purchase the thing, your support for it is not going to be good, and they're not going to tell you that. Like, they're still selling it at like the same list price that it's been always. They've reduced it down some. It used to be $2,400, now it's $1,999, but you run a risk of being locked into a piece of equipment that you don't have a control mechanism for. You can still use it with the plugin itself, the VST. But if you are thinking about moving into a higher operating system, like right now I'm using Mac OS Catalina, and Big Sur is coming. It's around the corner, and Big Sur has changed a lot. So I know that the VST for Access Virus is probably not going to work anymore. Even though it's 64-bit and it still supports 32-bit, because Big Sur has made such changes as far as control interfaces, it's probably going to be broken. It's not going to work. And a lot of manufacturers and software developers are in the process of changing things as well, just because of that. So, but this, every time I need to upgrade my operating system, I have to think about this thing first. All of my other gear, I don't have to think about how to move it over, because most of them have like either VST3 already, or they've continually updated their VST2. But this thing, no. It's to the point to where it's like, man, I really wish I wouldn't have purchased this thing, because now I don't feel like I have a support mechanism for it anymore. But yeah, it is what it is. But the ASM, I'm like really, really liking it. It's not a badly priced unit. You can get it at a regular price. This is a decent price for a desktop synth. It's an 8 voice polyphony synth, and again, the reason why I got it is because of its flexibility as far as modulation. This thing has some of everything on it. It's like ridiculous. There is also a keyboard version of it available, and I never buy the keyboard versions available for these things because I don't have the room. I have a really small studio, and I only have space for desktop stuff, and I'm starting to run out of desktop stuff space. So I think I'm pretty much done on the gear purchasing for now. The stuff that I have now, I'm just spending my time learning how to use it, integrating it into my setup, and just working from there. So that is what's happening gear wise for me. All right, let's kind of get back to looking at this track. So this track is a little different. I haven't made a track like this in a while. I've been really focusing on R&B and trap jazz and that kind of stuff. So coming back to this was kind of funny, because I was like, okay, I haven't made a song like this in a long time. So it was kind of funny kind of revisiting this style and coming up with this track, because it was like, okay, I can hear different things now. And if you're somebody starting out and you're just trying to develop your own style, and you've been practicing on one specific style for a while, sometimes it's good to just take a break away from what you're trying to learn and go to something else, and you'll see it with new eyes. And that's exactly what I feel about this track. Is I've been away from it for a while, so I feel like I have new eyes on how to develop this style and what I think I want it to sound like. So adding the things like the stutter edit and the thermal for my modular sound gear was that's something different. I've not done that before, and I'm experimenting more with those tonal sounds, resonating sounds, the drony sounds too. These sounds to me that I'm getting from my gear they're more like drony sounds, which is why I want to add more texture to them to make them less drony, which makes sense because it's a repetitive sound that's happening throughout the track. So to break that up, I feel like I need to add some dimension to it, like those effects and those changes. So when you're actually listening to the song all the way through, you don't notice that, hey, that sound is going through the whole track. And that's kind of the way that you want to build your tracks as well, is you really need to break it up in there and not have so much I call it dead space. You want to have things sound like they're changing every 8 to 16 bars. You really need change in there, so it makes your songs sound less without dimension. When there's no dimension, when you're listening to it, you can't really differentiate the verses from the hooks. But when you have dimension in there, you can tell that there's a difference. There's something happening There's something happening every 8 to 16 bars. So that's just something to think about when you're creating. So I use a template, but sometimes I really think about what I'm doing when I'm working in my template. Um, I break it up from time to time and try different things. Like if I'm making a song that has a hook that's like 16 bars long, I'll add an extra 8 bars to it. So it's those types of things. It really depends on the type of song that you're creating. Like if I'm going to create a slow jam, for instance, sometimes slow jams have like a 16 bar hook and 16 bar verses. So again, it's about change and how the song feels to you. But for this kind of stuff, I again kind of I use my template to as a guide, and depending on what I'm feeling, I'll switch it up and change it around. So for this one, I did add a brass element, some brass like brass horn sound, and it's just doing this basic stuff. So this is kind of some dynamics to it. That's what I'm using it for. And I'm using an Omnisphere, and I've got some bells, and let me just kind of show you what I'm doing with that. So I love Omnisphere too. Omnisphere is like an awesome plugin for sound. If you're into like stacking and layering sounds, Omnisphere is the go-to for that. So I've got a Callista in there, or Calliste in there, and I've got another bell type sound that's called Scary Clown Psychosis, and I'm blending these together to give me a single sound. And let me just show you what that's doing. Let's kind of scary bells there. So I got the little scary bells happening there, and I've just got a basic kick and a snare, really punchy snare. Perks, which is actually hats. There's that Stutter edit track. This is the blend of the Stutter edit and the thermal together. And I've got a sub lab in there, and my sub lab, I have been really experimenting a lot with my patterning of my subs as well, doing a lot more movement in them, listening to a lot of streaming audio to see what everybody else is doing, and the most common things that I hear are like a lot of patterned up and down movements. So I've been practicing on that, and I feel like I'm getting a lot of results, better results from my subs, on top of experimenting with creating subs in SubLab. I've been working on these patches for at least a couple weeks now, and I'm still working to add more patches. I'm going to be releasing a pack here. I just can't give you a date, but it's coming. Again, I really want to make sure that what I'm doing sounds good, and I'm going to be able to use them too. So I don't want to just release a bunch of junk stuff, and it's just not cool, even if it is free. So it's just me. When I download stuff, I don't just download it just because it's free. I normally download it because it does sound good, and that's just what I do. So I know if anybody else is like me, they're probably feeling the same way, because everybody and their mama is giving away free stuff. But if the free stuff sounds like junk, it's just taking up hard drive space, and I'm never going to use it. So I want to make sure that whatever I'm creating is usable. So that is what I'm doing. So I've got a Vox track in there too. Again, my basics that I always run to. I actually need to build myself a vocal rack. so that I can just pull a rack with all of these in it already. Because these are the same plugins that I use all the time for my vocals, at least for right now. Experimenting more with vocals, and I found that by me taking the time out to start singing myself, I actually can hear more dynamic stuff that I can do with vocals. And I kind of recommend that to you guys, even if you can't sing. If you got Melodyne, come on, man, you can do a lot with Melodyne, even if you're like really awful. If you just work on your breath control, and work on your tone, you can make Melodyne work for you and make things sound a little bit better. But yeah, I need to work on building a rack with just this stuff so that I can just pull it in. I'm always looking for shortcuts and ways to help myself to get a little bit faster. I use the collections a lot for a lot of the things that I know that I'm like my go-tos. I need to actually clean this thing up too. I use it a lot. Not so much for the Max for Live stuff. I haven't been using the Max for Live stuff as much. But even those, I've been trying to delve into it. It's really about really grabbing a hold of and understanding how to use your DAW to its fullest. The developers actually spent a lot of time developing these tools and things within the DAWs to make them useful. So why not just use them? Learn what they are, if they're useful or not. And I've been spending some time doing that and spending a lot more just learning time with Ableton. Throughout this entire COVID thing, my whole thing has been about learning and learning as much as I can, being very absorbent with my learning. I've made a list of some of the things that I know that I just hadn't had time to like really gravitate and spend a lot of time on. So my list I've created for myself, I have like my guitar training, getting more complex chord structures with piano, adding more dimensional features to my piano playing, learning more neo soul stuff, which is kind of cool. So those types of things are on my list. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of training resources for some of that stuff, like being able to soul guitar, R&B guitar, neo soul guitar. It's really difficult to find like training resources for that type of stuff. I did find one place called True Fire that had like a couple of different R&B neo soul kind of guitar training sessions. I've also been watching Carrie Be Smooth. He's a guitarist on YouTube. He's really good at kind of walking you through some of the finger licks kind of stuff. But the only problem I find with some of those is that they're not close enough from the fretboard to be able to see what they're actually doing. So you have to like really spend time slowing things down and trying to figure out what the fingering is. Which is kind of frustrating when you're trying to practice. You don't want to do that. You just kind of want to see either the show me the scale or show me the staff showing me the notes that you're playing, or even like a little drawing or showing the scales that you're playing in a little chart like that. They don't provide that kind of stuff, so it's really difficult to understand the fingering that they're doing on some of the videos. And that's kind of the overall problem that I've seen with a lot of the guitar training on YouTube, is that they don't spend enough time really allowing you to be able to see how they're coming up with the chords or showing you what they're playing, other than saying, hey, this is how I'm doing this, and oh, this is how I'm doing it. I know. So it's really frustrating from a learner's perspective. So I kind of understand why some people say that it's really difficult to learn how to do stuff on YouTube unless you have a guide and you really already understand what it is you're trying to learn. It's good for a medium to advanced user to be able to watch some of the videos, to be able to pick up extra tips and knowledge. But for basic beginner, very difficult. Very, very difficult to use YouTube. Now, from a training perspective, the place that I've found to be super from a training perspective has been Groove 3. And let me just kind of show you that site. Groove 3 has some everything. OMG. Let me just kind of show you these guys. Groove 3 is it's a capsule of knowledge to me, because they cover all of the plugins, like anything that you ever want to know about a plugin, they've got it. Like even let me just show you the DAW stuff. So I know that let's see, Presonus just released a new version of Studio One. I think it's version 5 now. And these guys, I know they've got training on it already. And I know they do because I saw it the other day. Yeah, here it is. So this is like the only place that I've been able to find. And these are the types of how detailed the courses are. They go into like the nitty gritty nuts and bolts of how to do stuff, which is really good. I mean, this is like how many hours training? It's a 6-hour training course, 6 hour and 38 minutes. And literally they go through every nuts and bolts and nick and cranny of how to do it. And this is the type of stuff that I'm looking for when I'm a learner and I'm learning from a learning perspective. This has been the way that I've learned Ableton Live. Ableton Live is a beast for a beginner. But when I took my time and went through the Ableton Live 10 explained course, which is a 3-hour course in 29 minutes, I was able to grasp Ableton a lot better from the first time that I installed the trial version and quickly was dissatisfied with it. And I reinstalled it and went back and watched these videos and said, oh, okay, now I get it. So, yeah, I mean, they really go into every nooks and cranny of all of the DAWs and also of all of the plugins as well. So, I mean, I don't spend a lot of time on YouTube watching videos on how to do stuff. I watch YouTube for sometimes just pleasure, watching people performing, or I'll watch for like some of the things that I've been watching lately has been T.I.'s new Expeditiously show, which is a podcast. Also Lil Wayne has a new show. I've been watching that a lot as well because he's been doing interviews with some of everybody and their mama on there. Those are the types of things I use YouTube for. No, so when I'm creating my videos, I have to think about that in that respect, that maybe not everybody's looking for training. So what I'm trying to do from my channel perspective is come up with different ways to be able to kind of show you guys musical stuff, which is why I don't go into the nits and crannies of how to do stuff. If you guys have specific questions about how to do something, please ask. I definitely will respond back. And I've gotten a lot of good input from people asking questions about how to do something, and I've been able to help them. And I'm always willing to help people. And that was really the reason why I started my channel. If you go back and look at my very first video, which is a video that I was sweating bricks over because I was so frustrated with my MPC, and nothing that I was trying to do was documented anywhere. And I spent my time, learned how to do whatever it is what I was trying to do, which ended up being rabbit hole to hell. because I was trying to make something that's supposed to be a standalone piece of equipment work as part of my DAW. Now that I've got over that ridiculous aspect of it, and only use the MPC software for as a sound module, my life is completely stress free. I've gone so far, I went ahead and created a drum rack so I can use my push 2 with it. And when I pull it into my DAW, and all I got to do is select the sound bank that I want to use from it, and I start playing. Boom, that's it. That's all I do with it now. It's no longer like a stress point for me, because it should never be a stress point. The Akai MPC, I think it's because it's been so glamorized over the years by the hip hop community as being the do all be all piece of equipment for making hip hop, that it was kind of a lust kind of a thing, an equipment lust thing. But no, for me, I found that using a variety of different types of things, from, let me just show you my drum racks. Using a variety of different types of things, including samples and loops, is a better way, a lot easier way, a lot faster way to be able to create. At least it is for me, from my perspective. I love still pulling out the MPC software and creating things with it, but from a speed standpoint, it's not the first thing that I'll pull out. First thing I'll pull out is I'll go to my sample library and see if I can find a sound that I'm looking for. If I can't find something in there, then I'll start digging through my drums, my drum VSTs. So again, I don't place the drum stuff high on my list anymore. I'm more worried about melody and overall sound design. Making sure that my sounds are not vanilla and generic like everything else, to stand out from everything else. I'm concerned about using more rich and dynamic chords, and also song structure. Those are kind of been my focus over the past month or two now. And I've found that by changing my focus that direction, I feel a lot more comfortable with what I'm creating. I'm happier with the stuff that I'm creating, which means that the stuff that I'm creating is a lot more emotional. When you're happy from a creative standpoint, the stuff that you create sounds like you're happy. So I just tips. If you can get comfortable with your workflow, the things that make it easy for you to be able to create, the easier it is to make music. But if you have to spend hours and hours tweaking on something, trying to make those guitar pedals work, trying to make that outboard gear work for this, and trying to make this happen with that, this stuff just, it's a big setup for failure. And that's kind of the road that I've been down. So I'm just telling you from a personal standpoint that those kinds of things really don't matter. I still use the outboard gear. I use it not as much as I probably should. But when I sit down and start doing these, like stuff like this with the modular gear, I'm always looking for different ways to use it and not the normal way to use it. Coming up with different sounds and making those sounds my own sounds, making those organic moments happen musically. And that's been like the light bulb turning on for me. I'm way not even close to like feeling like I've made it like happen. And I don't think you ever get to that point. People say that you have to get to that 10,000 hours before you start feeling like you're good at something. I don't think you ever get to that point. I think every single song and project that you work on is just a culmination of events to get to the next one. And I don't think that, you're just not going to write a hit every time you sit down and create a track. Because even if you go out on Instagram and you start watching these guys that are doing the live streams and they're making these songs, those songs don't sound good to me. And half of them probably never make it to be part of the demo projects so that they can send to artists. But not everybody makes a hit the same time that they're like creating. So I know that it's not just me. I know that I'm not alone in my thought processes, and I know that I'm not alone from a musical perspective. I don't try to compare my music to anybody else's music, and I don't want to be compared to anybody else. I know that what I'm doing doesn't sound like anybody else's stuff. I know it doesn't, and I don't want it to. I don't care to sound like anybody else. I'm not trying to. Again, I don't do type beat stuff. It's not me. I want to be original. I want to be original from from a creative perspective. Now, again, I do keep my stuff current by listening to different rhythm patterns, making sure that what I'm doing rhythmically is in line with what's happening in the rest of the world. I don't be making like country beats, trying to do trap music to country beats. That's not a good mix. So I am making the music that I want to make. I'm happy with the music that I'm making. I'm happy with the progress that I'm making and moving forward and how that I'm making the music. Ableton is working the way that I want it to work when it's not fucking crashing. I've been having a lot of problems with crashing here lately, and it's some of the plugins. And I need to go back through my plugins and make sure that I'm on the latest updates for all of them again. But I know when I start having crashing issues, it's normally a plugin that's causing a problem. But having having a DAW that's pretty solid, and I'm understanding how to use the DAW all the way through to be able to get the sounds that I want, it's imperative to me. As I develop and get more into the sound design realm, being able to use Ableton to be able to get the sound design pieces, like using Operator to make things, and getting in more to the external gear, using those things to make patches and sounds for my sound banks. Those kinds of things are what I'm focusing on. So that's kind of just, what I'm doing. And that is all I have for that. Okay, so I'm going to play the song at the end here. Again, if you guys have questions, please don't be afraid to reach out and ask. I've helped a lot of people. And I know that I'm continuing to help people with the videos that I've posted in the past, because I get questions on them all the time. I normally post things up for like something, if I'm just like the UAD Luna stuff. I did those videos because I'm frustrated with my console, and I'm still frustrated with it. I really wish that Universal Audio would make the features of Luna available inside the console, especially since I went ahead and invested in getting the Neve summing. That would be nice to just be able to use that in the console and not have to have Luna open concurrently. I already had the Stutter already. That was something I've had for a while. But being able to have these two things outside of Luna, inside the console, would be great. I really don't care about those instruments, the free instruments that come with it, because I'm not going to use them anyway. But having access to these new plugins that they're developing for it would be nice. Universal Audio stuff, again, is not cheap. Even when they have sales, it's still not cheap. So, I know the ROI is a factor in why they have the pricing on some of this stuff. But for software, I have issues with that because regardless of how many hours it takes your developers to make something, you really still have to think about the audience that you're serving. A bunch of musicians, and even the ones that are making money, they have budgets too. So plugins shouldn't be more than $100. That's just my thoughts about it. Anything over $100, that it needs to do like a bunch of stuff. I mean, seriously. I mean, because I can tell you this Neve summing, it does not do more than 2 or 3 things here. And it's like $3.99 on a regular day. And again, they don't do good sales. They don't do good sales at all. Even at the half year sales like they just did recently, the plugins, they're priced so high that even the half year sale discounts are still too high. They're just overpriced, really. And you have to start thinking about it. You have all these other plugins that are just equally as good. Whether you want to really get into the realm of UAD, because as far as a competition wise, Waves still is probably the on top, and they even learned some time ago that by overpricing their plugins, it makes the cost to get into them too high. So they started reducing the prices of their plugins, and they're making more money now than they probably ever did. You can go out to the UAD website and you can find a plugin for $20. Those are the kinds of prices that musicians really appreciate. And I'll just show you. I'm not lying. I don't know why I just did that. www. That's dumb. Okay, so see, right now they have a 40% discount, and plus you get free plugins with the purchase. So, I mean, those are realistic. Look, it's like $29.99. Those are realistic prices for real humans to purchase stuff. So even some of their more pricey stuff with a discount is, that's cheap. That's cheap. It's less expensive for a musician. We are not like doctors and lawyers and people who are, making excessive amounts of money. Some of us are lucky to have salaries that allow us to be able to buy things outside of taking care of the house and taking care of the car and that kind of stuff. But I don't want to spend excessive amounts of money on plugins. I don't want to spend excessive amounts of money on hardware either. I would much rather be able to get into this gear without having to go into debt to do it. So I'm hoping that the plugin manufacturers and the hardware manufacturers really start thinking about these things when they're making stuff. It's like, who are you making this stuff for? I'm really starting to question that. You guys are making this stuff. You're making the great stuff, but who are you making it for? Because the people who are able to buy it there's a very small amount of those people versus the world. So are you making the products just to focus on the 1%? Or are you making your products to focus on anybody in the music industry who can afford them to use them? Because if you're thinking about it from that perspective, you're only focused on the 1% if you're not making your product prices user friendly. So I'm just gonna get off the soapbox on that. But yeah, I just stuff is on my mind about that. It just really bothers me. And I realize that a lot of people are going through hard times right now, and I am, or not knowledgeable of that, or no one technically wants to buy something right now because of the things that are happening. But if you have the funds to be able to afford something, you don't want it to have to be you don't want to have to feel bad about the purchase because it costs so much, and then how much time you're going to spend. Am I going to really spend this much time using that? You know, making life decisions about plugins. Nobody wants to do that. And when you start trying to get into making life decisions about buying something, something's wrong with that. Something's really, really wrong with that. And maybe not even just from your perspective, but from the people who are selling it. Why would you focus so much of your return on investment on a small group of people versus all of the people who are actually going to be trying to use the product? I'm just saying. Okay, well, that's all I've got on this one. I know I've talked a lot on this one. And I'm going to play the song here at the end, and I'll see you on the next one.